The time has been set. I'm going to be getting the cremation box back from the pet hospital tomorrow. You know, Kilua's remains will be here along with his brothers. And that will be that will be it for that. That chapter will be complete. And what is physically left of him will be here with me. And I am grateful. I'm grateful that I'm grateful that I'll have that piece of him back. Won't have to, worry about the pet hospital for a long time after that. But yeah, moving on for now till I get that tomorrow. The window. The window at my job, I did it. I did it. Those lens cleaning wipes worked like a charm. I tore about 4 of them open and just went to work on that window, and it ate away at everything that was left. That window, when I was gone, was spotless. It was clear as day. Not a single smudge, not a single smear. I did it. My plan worked. So, window defeated. I am victorious. Yeah. It was a long tussle between me and that window. It's been going for a couple weeks now. Just every other window got cleaned easily, very easily. Every other window just pulled out the microfiber, got the spray, the surface cleaner, just wiped it down, boom, window's clean. But for some reason, that window, and of course it's the front window, the first window that everyone sees when they come in. So it's going to be the worst. The other windows I don't really care, but that window specifically. Not that I don't clean them, but that specific window is literally the first thing you're going to look at. And, we gotta keep a nice clean, front. So just been chipping away at it for a while, and now it's done. It's done. It is defeated. All the grime has been removed. Handprints and so on. Gone. And it's not like one of the doors, so it's not likely to keep getting really bad over and over and over again. But, whatever was going on with that, it's done. Yeah. But most of what I want to talk about today, it came to my mind while I was working today. Wiping things off, cleaning up, organizing things, those little in-between moments. But one thing I started thinking about, and not just today, but also yesterday, was like all the new stuff that I've been doing Metroid, doing planning, Dungeons and Dragons, DMing, trying to find new jobs, trying to find a way to make money, uploading old art, doing all the stuff that I have been doing. I was thinking to myself, like, what would happen if I stopped? What would happen if. And I realized very quickly, almost immediately after thinking of that if I went backwards, if I stopped, if I if I took a step back, that there would be nothing. That there is nothing behind me. If that does that make sense? That if I stopped doing these journals, then I would have no one to talk to, even if it's just myself. If I stopped uploading, I'd have nothing. Nothing that goes out, nothing to share, nothing. I would just be here by myself. I mean, I got my cats obviously, but they're limited in their ability to interact. If I didn't play Metroid, I wouldn't play anything right now. If I didn't If I took a step back, if I stopped, I would just be here doing nothing. There would be no anything, no little choices that can grow, no steps, there wouldn't be anything that it's not something to like force me to keep going necessarily. I want to keep going. It's not something that's there to make me like, well, I have to keep working, I have to keep creating. I want to. But I was just thinking about that, like, if I didn't, well, then there wouldn't be anything, you know? No one's no one's coming for me. No one's going to be visiting. There's no push or pull here or there, There's no one's coming. Nothing and no one's coming. I'm not getting any visitors. No one's coming to visit me. No one's, if I didn't do these things, I wouldn't have anything. I'd just be trapped in this little box that I currently call my home. I would just be, yeah. I'm trying to find a way to explain it, but I can't really think of a good way to put it. The closest I can almost imagine it to is before I started recording these and just talking and trying to get my thoughts out of my head, and onto something more tangible that I could, make the words more real. Before that, it was just all input, no output. And I thought of that the first way to explain it, but I don't like how mechanical and logistical that sounds. I don't like how it sounds, but that's the closest thing I can think of. All input, no output. If I took any step back, there's nothing behind me. There's nothing to go back to. There's no switching to something else, you know? The way I'm moving forward is the way I can move forward. There's no alternative path. Behind me is nothing. And that's weird to think about. But it's paradoxically motivating at the same time. The fact that, you know, behind me is nothing, there's only forward at this point. And each of these little things that I do is the way that I could and can be going. I hope that makes some sense. I'm trying to make it more clear, but I'll leave it be. I don't want to spend too long trying to figure that out when I got other things I want to say. But something else I thought about today, and I'll give it some context where the thought came from. So I was with the other person in the car, still have to have them take me to work, unfortunately, But I mentioned this before, the other person really, really disrespects and dislikes police officers. And the reason is that the other person can't control police officers. The other person likes dominance, hierarchy, control, and police officers hold people accountable. and make them hold responsibility, and the other person does not like that at all and likes to deflect blame and all kinds of stuff. So has always had a deep-seated dislike for police officers because they represent authority. They're a type of authority that the other person can't control. But today we came across an police officer while we were driving. Not that the police officer didn't come for us or anything like that. Literally, the police officer was just there, hanging out, doing his job. And the other person started saying, like, oh God, please don't let this police officer what is he even doing out here? He doesn't belong here. He shouldn't be here. There are no citizens who need to be watched over by police officers. Who does he think he is? And started going on like a whole tangent, like a rant about how unnecessary police officers are, and they're just there to terrorize the citizens and innocent people, and always unfairly picking on everyone, and they're just there to make problems for everybody else. Yeah, like going on a whole rant about police officers, and then ended it by saying, coming up with the hypothetical, if we got ticketed, $500 tickets, you're going to have to pay for that and you'll be out on the street. And I was like, what? I didn't say that out loud, but in my head, I was like, what? And like immediately, the other person, in their hypothetical, sacrificed me. Immediately sacrificed me and the kittens. Instantly. Without hesitation, without a second thought. Just instantly said, like, if that police officer comes after us, I'm going to get a ticket. That's $500. That's going to have to come out of your rent. You're going to be on the street. And just said it so casually like that. Just like, it's going to come out of your wallet. It's going to come out of the rent. And you're going to be out on the street. You're going to be homeless. No indication of them trying to cover it, making up for their mistake if they were to get fined or ticketed. Just immediately, if they made a mistake and got a ticket, and that ticket was $500, immediately the first response that the other person came to was just, I'm sacrificing you. That's it. You're gonna have to pay for my mistake and like take it on. And that more than anything, that did scare me. Not necessarily like fear, but it unsettled me immensely to hear the other person immediately jump to, like, yeah, that's it. Just, I'm gonna sacrifice you. You're gonna be homeless. Not like I'm gonna pay for it, or I'd have to pay for it, or try to find some way to make the money, or ask for, a waive, or see if the court could, like, and I know I'm going through this hypothetical, but like, let's go through this for a second. Not that the court ask for like incremental payments, not try and make the money, or like we would have to split, and then we'd have to do some extra work to try and make up for it. Not, but I would take care of you. Not any of that. Just like, I'm sacrificing you. You'll be homeless. And the other person, yeah, just instantly like, you'll be homeless. You'll have no money. You'll be out on the street. And no, I did about 5 minutes after the other person said that, I thought about it to myself, and I set a boundary right there, and I told the other person very, very clearly, like, make sure that with the money that I make from my job, that you always ask me permission and you never use it on your own, or that you take from it, and that you need the money that I make, you need my permission first before you're ever to touch it, no matter the scenario, no matter the hypothetical, whatever it is. Of course, the other person did get very upset, started accusing me of all kinds of stuff, and I just reiterated the boundary that I set, no matter what the other person said, and they stopped. They masked up again afterwards, but yeah, they got into like a whole, like telling me like you're just all the other men in my life, accusing me of stealing your money and all that, and completely ignoring, just completely ignoring what the threat that they just made. But regardless, I was very clear, like, you know, do not touch that. But yeah, so gonna get gonna start looking into getting my own bank account and seeing what I can do with that kind of stuff. But just moments like that, the other day when I talked about the fear of Killua and Gon just becoming memories or just becoming experiences, and that, what I'll have of Gon and Killua now is just them as memories and remembering them. That makes me sad, but you know what makes me happy? It makes me happy that when I speak about how just 2 weeks ago, just a month ago, I had those two little cat brothers in my lap, and they were so happy and purring, and, well, 3 months ago, or however long it was, the other person lived here. And you know what? That is just a memory now. And that being a memory, the past decades that I spent with the other person, those are just memories now. And I couldn't be any happier that experience will only be memories now. That as many as 3 months ago, as far as 3 months ago, I was living through that nightmare. And you know what? Thank you for just being a memory now. Thank you that the only way I could ever experience it is just thinking about it, is just recalling, just thinking of it, that it's not tangible, that I'm just thinking about how different my life was then. And you know what? That was the biggest... I speak constantly about getting out of the negative and just trying to reach zero. It wasn't until today that, I've spoken about how I feel healthy now. I feel healthier now. But it wasn't until today that I really thought about, I was deep in the negative that entire time. And that becoming a memory got me so much closer to zero than I ever realized. But man, my life was so much different then. There was another person here. There was their entire personality, their actions, their being, the way that they were, the way that they interacted, the things that they did, the things that they watched, the things that they listened to, the words that they said, the way that I ended up having to interact with them, the emotions that I had with them. It's like, imagine all the amazing, wonderful things about Gon and Killua, and then reverse that, but reverse it. So it's like the dark version of that. I just wish Gon and Killua could have made it with me further and made it to me reaching zero. I wish that could have happened, and I've expressed that before. But I'm so pleased that that other part, the only thing left of it is just those memories and feelings. And that's great. That is great. Again, like yesterday, I was talking about a whole mix of emotions. I'm glad certain things are left in memory, and disappointed that other things, heartbroken that other things are left in memory. Yeah. But I am pleased that if I did stop, if I did stop taking steps, that I I wouldn't ever go that far back. You know? There's a new baseline to how miserable things could be. And that baseline isn't as low as it used to be. All in all, things have improved. All paradoxically, contradictorily, and all these twists and turns. I feel like crying. I do. I can feel welling up behind my eyes. It's just gratefulness and sadness all at the same time. And gratefulness and sadness all at the same time. That's the best way I can describe it. Just reminiscing, thinking about where things are heading. And even though nothing is really happening, this feels important. This feels... And can I tell you something? Can I tell me something? Sometimes it feels good to know that someone who you used to hang out with, you used to live with, you've got blood relation to, sometimes it's nice to know that they hate you or dislike you or would sacrifice you in a second, because it just means that you can let that go. Some parts of me still remember living with them and the lingering feeling of thinking that I was loved or cared for, truly, But something about that person immediately turning to just sacrificing me, and that's their first example, and immediately afterward turning to threats and saying, well, I was going to give you all these good things, but I guess I'm not going to anymore, all that kind of stuff. Something about hearing that. There was the same immense relief I felt when that person said that, it was over and they were just going to, abandon us here, or, you know, this is all over, our entire relationship is over, we can't live with you, it's a failed project, you know. Basic being completely disowned. It wasn't disheartening. It's bringing up memories of my early journals now, talking about how good that felt. I hope you don't mind if I reminisce about that. I've been in that kind of mood for the past few days, just thinking about that. But 60 journals now, 61 with this one. That's not even the total amount of days since this started. It was a couple of weeks before I started doing journals because I felt like I was going crazy and I needed to say something. And so, like, it's longer than this channel has been around. But but there's something nice about knowing that you can let something go and that it doesn't care about you. It removes the complication. It makes anything that could have been a shade of gray has turned nice and black and white. It's those great moments where the world gets to be nice and black and white. Black and white do exist, and it can be so relieving when it happens. It can be so relieving when that happens, when the nuance is removed. It just makes things so much easier. It makes me happy. It makes me happy and sad all at the same time, but the core feeling is just pleasancy. Relief. Relief that I don't have to keep sitting through that. Keep wondering about that. Yeah. There's that tension, there's a certain tension sitting in that gray area, and now it's just removed. And some days my mind tries to go back to, like, maybe you were too harsh, but no, you're good. You can let that go. No, that person really does just hate you and wants to drop you at a moment's notice. No matter what they say, there's no real love or connection, And I've grown a certain fondness for the people that I work with at my job. It's a little sad to say because, like, we're just coworkers, but they don't treat me with disdain, you know? Mm. Sorry. I was about to cry for a second. It's it's not sadness though. it's it's gratitude. You know, I was thinking about that today as well. Because one of my coworkers, they they had a birthday for one of their children, and they they brought cupcakes and pound cake that one of their family members made to work. And they they thought of me And they gave me some to take home with me today. And there was there was something so special about that, you know. Something about people not treating me with meeting people who don't treat me with, you know, disdain. And you know, something about that. Complete disdain. Something about the contrast of sitting in that car with someone who truly just despises me and disdains me. And truly just would sacrifice me at a moment's notice and drop me, you know? Drop me like a bad habit. Uh, on a dime. Just completely leave and without a trace. Just completely, you know. If they could get that opportunity, just completely goodbye, you know, at the drop of a hat. And something about stepping into that car, holding a little holding a little box with a slice of a slice of pound cake and a little cupcake for my coworker's birthday party for their little kid. There's just something about that. And I was at work thinking about that. And how pathetic I would look. And I almost cried at work, but I let it go. You know, I just decided to hold on. Resentment, that's the word I was looking for. Someone who just completely resents me, you know. I represent the ultimate insult to them. And just something about being around people who don't look at me with disdain and anger and resentment, you know. Sure, they can get frustrated. Sure, they can, you know, be rude. Sure, there's moments where they're, you know, terse, but they always mean well, you know. And I can work with them, and it's a little sad though, isn't it? How could I cry over people who barely even know me? Who don't know anything about me, you know? I only see them like 3 days out of the week for what, like 4 or 5 hours at a time? And the most I could say is I'm so glad that they don't disdain me. That they would think just to give me something as simple as a small cupcake and a little slice of pound cake. And you know what? I'm so grateful. It's the most anyone has thought about me in person in a long, long time. As much as I care for my one very good friend, he lives like 8 hours away. There's nothing he can do, you know. But something about having people who are actually there, you know. I have the other person and other people, you know. I've got blood relations, but I might as well not even have, you know. I might as well not even have. no actual, you know, out there there are people who are blood related to me that are a massive family. Some closer than others, some not so much. But none of that is for me, you know? And you know what? I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I really don't. Because today, people I don't even know, people I only see 3 days out of the week for a couple of hours, they don't know my interests. They don't really know anything about me. It's completely cordial, completely just polite. But you know what? one of those people just maybe a little to go box of the slice of pound cake and a cupcake. And it's one of the best feelings I've had in a very long time. Bunch of people I don't even know. The other day invited me to a cookout. And I had barely anything to talk about with them until that last hour. And then that person's gonna leave, so won't have them to talk about that stuff with, again. Not that I ever knew them, not that I ever. Maybe I just get overly attached a little too quickly. I get a little overly emotional at imagining what it would be like to be in love with somebody, or what it would be like to have even just a friend who came over, came over to the house, came over to this place. I wonder, though, how long it'll be like that, It's funny, because I'm not even, looking. I'm not even looking, I'm not even looking for someone to fall in love with. I'm not out there. I've got, no desire to go on dating apps or anything like that, but I just wonder about it, I just wonder what it would be like to have. And I don't even necessarily mean romantic love or anything like that, but just. I don't know. I'm ignorant. I'm just a little ignorant guy. Recording little things into his phone and sticking them on his little corner of the internet. I'm just an ignorant little guy. But, you know, that's all I got. That's all I got for today. To whoever I meet in the future, I want to say it now. Who knows what's going to happen to me? But I'll say it now, just in case. I love you. I don't know who you might turn out to be, or what kind of relationship necessarily we'll have. I don't know if it'll just be friends, or I don't know anything about love in that way. I don't know what it feels like, but maybe I'll know it if it happens, If it comes to, maybe I'll know it when it's right in front of me. Mm. Gon, I love you. Kilua, I love you. Erdrick, I love you. Eardwin, I love you. Numa, I love you. And to whoever you are, that unknown person in the future, if you exist, if you're out there, I love you too. Alright, that's actually it.